Please, Pete, I need this! My mom is kind of homeless.
Today's video is all about Alucard. We'll analyze his damage and potential, and see if he's really worth being one of the top meta supports. Let's start with the basics of Alucard, although most of you probably already know him. So first, he's one of the rarest secret units in the entire game, with just a 0.004% chance to summon. That's literally 1 in 25,000, so if you have him, consider yourself lucky. He has a bleed effect on hit, dealing 25% of his damage over time. On top of that, he inflicts wounded to enemies in range, making them take 20% more damage. That's all you really need to know for now, so let's break down his damage. With godly stats at max level, Alucard's base damage sits at 11,591, but that's just the starting point. When you equip him with Monarch, his damage is 46,364, and honestly, that's underwhelming. It's even weaker than some mid-tier units. Now we'll use Alucard's full passive damage potential. Restraint level 0 gives him 1% more damage each time one of his minions dies, stacking up to 35%. So he reaches 62,591 damage every 4.7 seconds with godly stats and the Monarch trait. Now let's look at his AOT damage. Like I mentioned earlier, he applies bleed with every hit 25% of his damage, so he deals 11,591 bleed damage, right? No, because of his recent buff, the bleed duration was increased from 2 seconds to 8 seconds. Mean bleed and wounded effects now stays active the whole time enemies are in his range. Also, the bleed effect deals its total damage every second, not all at once. So he deals 1449 bleed damage per second. Another but, because his attack speed is way higher than that, he basically keeps bleed running indefinitely within his range. That means his bleed DPS stays steady at 1449 per second. Now for the wounded effect, it makes enemies take 20% more damage. That means all of your units deal increased damage while the enemies are under this effect. But since we're analyzing Alucard, we'll only calculate the damage he deals with the wounded effect. His base damage while enemies have wounded will be 75,109, and bleed DPS will be 1,738 per second. For his DPS, he have 15,129 damage per second. Add his bleed DPS, make total of his DPS will be 16,867 damage per second. So the question is Alucard really worth being one of the top meta supports? The answer is yes and no. His damage is lower than some sub DPS units, and even compared to other bleed units, his damage is still relatively low. But he has infinite bleed duration within his range and a large attack range even at base stats. He also makes all units deal 20% more damage through wounded, providing an excellent support buff. In fact, his support potential is even better than Hurricane Dancer, which I don't have because I was lazy during the release update. And if you want that max potential damage, it takes a long time because of Restraint level 0. You need to upgrade him to max, spending 98,000 cash, and then wait about 10 minutes, using his skill 4 times to reach the maximum 35% damage buff. So anime Vanguards, please give him Vanguard familiars or a double evolution like Songris and Broly.